So in the middle of this, Blake Lively wants us to drink more vodka. Hi, and welcome to Flawsome Talk. I'm Kjersti Flå, and here on my channel, I talk about my good and bad experiences working as an entertainment reporter in Hollywood. And as you know, a lot about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni legal drama. It's getting really, really confusing, all of this stuff that's happening back and forth. As you know, Blake Lively has withdrawn or tried to withdraw her claims of emotional distress, but that has caused a lot of distress. So as we know now, she wants to withdraw her claims, but at the same time, she doesn't want to really withdraw them because she wants to put them back in if it suits her at a later point. And Baldoni's team has said that's not going to happen. So Judge Lehman said that the parties have to agree on this, if it's going to be with or without prejudice. Of course, Baldoni's team wants it to be with prejudice, so Blake Lively can't just bring it back in again. Now, Blake Lively has come out and said that the reason for her withdrawing these claims is not what you think it is. It's not because she doesn't want to show her medical records, as was suggested by Baldoni's lawyer. It is, I don't really know what it is because it's really hard to figure out the real reason here. As this Deadline reporter was explaining, again, not for the first time in this matter, a tempest or a teacup that is clear as mud. Yeah, I don't know if they're ever going to agree upon this. And I don't know what happens if they don't, then maybe she can't remove them. I don't know. Oh my God, it's so complicated, you guys. Anyways, here's a story that's not so complicated. So, in the middle of all this mess and drama and all the kind of negative publicity around Blake Lively, because a lot of people have been speculating if this is the beginning of the end of Blake Lively's lawsuit, if this is a big loss for her. And for us regular people reading magazines and newspapers, of course, it seems like this is a loss for Blake Lively. She's withdrawing one of her most important claims from the lawsuit. Anyway, so in the middle of this, Blake Lively wants us to drink more vodka. That's her message. So she just launched some new products. I can't believe the timing of her product releases. Remember, it was just last week she released a new mist in the middle of the Taylor Swift blackmailing drama. She was like, "Hey, I have a new mist. Do you want to smell this?" And she was posting like nonstop on her social media about the new mist that everyone had to buy so they could smell nice. And now she wants everyone to try out her new Betty Booze products. She's launching 2 new flavors, and People magazine again did an ad for it, pretending it to be an article, which I think is kind of illegal that you have to mark these things with advertisement. They're just interviewing her. I'm sure they just sent them a press release, and she's talking about her new products. So first of all, Blake Lively doesn't drink herself, but she wants you to do it, which I find very hypocritical in the first place. Why are you going to recommend products that you don't even enjoy yourself? To me, that's not great marketing. But anyways, she's saying in this interview, she's talking about the products, and she's saying that she wanted to add vodka to the mix because her Betty Buzz sparkling mixers already had tequila and bourbon. So it was time to add vodka. She also continues to talk about how this Betty Booze is meant to be shared among friends. She's creating this environment of how amazing it is to drink her vodka drinks and how you can share it with your friends and family. And then the reporter here asks, or maybe she just put this in the article, because the headline of the article is Blake Lively announces 2 new Betty Booze flavors and reveals which one her Another Simple Favor character would drink. Exclusive. What do you think? Aren't you curious to find out what Emily in Another Simple Favor would potentially, hypothetically drink? And here's the answer. Emily had a fabulous wedding in Capri, which is all things lemon. She notes of the sequel, which was released on Amazon Prime last month. Lemons have a sweet spot for all us Capri superfans, she adds. Though I think Emily would spike our ready-to-drink teas with much more vodka. because ours are nice and subtle, and she is neither nice or subtle. Well, sometimes she's nice, but never subtle. Then she adds at the end here, drinking isn't my thing, but for F's sake, flavor is. Lively added on Instagram at the time of the launch. Homemade recipes, real homemade recipes, real fruit, real ingredients, is quality booze, no crap. Also real time saver, which is why I really did it. I don't think that's why she really did it. I think she really did it to make money and come across as a businesswoman. This is such a classic PR tactic to divert all the attention that she's getting from this lawsuit right now. Again, in this article, she's emphasizing how relatable she is. She's trying to build this brand around herself that she's this relatable woman who's also a businesswoman. And at the same time, she can still thrive in the middle of all this mess because she's a strong woman. And even though she is a victim at the same time, she can still be a businesswoman and be a great role model for other women. I think she was hoping that this news would be picked up more places, so these headlines would overshadow all the headlines about her withdrawing her emotional distress claims. I haven't really seen it anywhere. So yeah, I think People magazine is the only one who actually wrote about this. There's a comment here, which I also really agree with, saying interesting that this article did not have the label of paid advertisement because it's not a news article. So true. And I thought the same thing with the Miss thing. I think this is really shady territory for journalists to go. And there's actually a byline on this story. I would never put my name on a story like that. And talking about another simple favor, this was a reminder for me. Thank you, Letitia, for sending me this email. Because as you remember in Another Simple Favor, Blake Lively had this scene with her triplet, which was, of course, played by herself in this love scene where she's basically making love to herself. But when you take into consideration what a narcissist like Lively is, this is almost a little poetic. The word narcissist comes from Greek mythology. I'm sure a lot of you know this story from Narcissus, who fell in love with himself, looking in the water. He could never love anyone, and he would always reject people that loved him. But then one day he saw his own reflection in the water, and he fell deeply, deeply in love with himself. He was so in love with himself, and he didn't understand that that was just an image. So at the end, he just wasted away and died by this water. There's also some versions of this story when he turns into a flower at the end that grows near the water that is called Narcissus. But anyways, of course, the word narcissist comes from Narcissus. And it explains how obsessions with yourself and self-love can cause your downfall. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now with Blake Lively. She's creating her own downfall for not being able to see the world for what it is and for refusing to take any accountability for her own action. Yeah, I think this image from the movie is just kind of such an explanation of what's going on in Blake's life. A narcissist usually puts on this like perfect persona that they're flawless, they're stylish, successful, happily married, smart, philanthropic, and now a business mogul as well, as Blake Lively has said. It's not just a product she's selling, it's an extension of herself. She creates legacy brands that's feeding her own ego. And you see it so often in Hollywood as well, that people lose touch with reality. And then they end up on this downward spiral of self-destruction without even understanding what's happening to them, because they cannot grasp the fact that they are not adored by everyone. Anyways, enough of Blake Lively. I want to talk about this story also today because I found this in Variety, and I think it's the dumbest interview or the most ridiculous interview I've seen in a very long time. So if you were White Lotus fans, you remember probably the Offset drama as well. And even if you were not watching the White Lotus, you might find this story amusing. So The two characters, the most lovable characters almost in the story, played by Walton Goggins and Amy Lou Wood, they were on-screen lovers, and I think the audience really fell in love with them as well. But all of a sudden, people started speculating if there was a feud between them because they had apparently stopped following each other on Instagram. I did cover that story when it happened because I thought it was a little bit silly. Then the rumors got more legs when Walton Goggins was interviewed. I don't remember the outlet now, but he was asked about it and he got furious and left the interview. So he obviously didn't want to talk about it. And then people were like, what's going on here? Did they have an affair or something? And as you know, Walton Goggins is married, and yeah, that's not ideal. And then, of course, when Jason Isaac, one of their co-stars, came out and said that it was just as much drama in the show or in the TV series as there was offset amongst the cast, people were like, oh, okay, there's something here. The two of them didn't even pose together. They were not seen together at the Met Gala. They were both there, and they haven't done any press together, nothing until now. And now we know why they unfollowed each other on Instagram, and you won't believe the reason. This is the dumbest thing I've heard in my life. So, in Variety, both Amy and Walton are interviewed together. And I read the whole thing. It's a really long interview, and it's and it states through the whole interview how he is so teary-eyed and kind of crying during the interview, which I found interesting. So when Walton was asked about Amy, he said, "There is no feud. I love this woman madly. She's love, and I know that I'm that to her. We care about each other very deeply." Okay, so then they get asked about unfollowing each other on Instagram. So it says here that Wood said she found it indicative of where we are at culturally. Why is everyone obsessing over Instagram? That is irrelevant. We don't give a shit about Instagram, she said. Why not have conversations about the story and Rick and Chelsea and enjoy it? Well, welcome to Hollywood. People will speculate in your personal life when you are in a big TV show. That's just the way it is. If you don't like it, you have to go and do theater or something else. I do like Amy, though, I have to say. I feel like she's so cute, and I loved her in the show. I'm just saying that if you don't want the attention and speculations around your personal life, you cannot do this job. And then she continues saying that eventually I just started to sit back and watch these people making something out of absolutely nothing. It was interesting because there were paparazzi pictures of Amy crying, like really bawling and crying her eyes out when this guy was like supporting her. So then, of course, people were like, oh, is she heartbroken? I don't know. Then Walton Goggins is asked about why he unfollowed Amy, and this is the most ridiculous answer to date that I've seen. So he says, my catharsis in this experience was different than other people's because of my history in this place. I knew what we had gone through and I knew how close we had gotten, and I needed to begin to process saying goodbye to Rick and Chelsea. So he needed to unfollow his co-star on Instagram to get out of character. I'm thinking if you are married to a person like that, that it's so involved in his own character that he needs to unfollow his co-stars afterwards to kind of shake off this person, I mean, I don't buy it. He continues to say, I needed to just back away from everyone. I haven't spoken to anyone. I couldn't handle it. Judge me or don't. I don't give a F what you think. This is my process. Rick means everything to me, and Chelsea means everything to me. And so that's what I needed to do for me to process all of this. Okay. Well. I don't believe you for 1 second that that's the reason why you unfollowed her. At the end of this interview, he goes to pick up his phone and he follows her again. So now they're following each other. And he ends this with saying, it's also ridiculous. It's just a part of me just saying goodbye to this character so that now Amy and I will be friends for effing ever. Eat that. Well, good for you, Walton. I don't understand why he got so angry when he's asked about this before, though. I mean, I want to have an explanation for that. Why did he cut off that interview, cut it short when he was asked about it? Yeah, something's not right here. They're not telling the truth. They're just selling us this kind of ridiculous excuse. So I interviewed Wilton Goggins a few times and I really like him. Uh, he came across as such a nice, bubbly guy. And I was like, oh, I really like this. But now when I'm reading these stories about him and how he reacted to these things, I'm like, it comes off as so pretentious. I don't know. You don't have the most important job in the world. You're playing someone else, and it's just taking over your life like this. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not married to Walton Goggins. Let's put it that way. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching this show. And tomorrow I'm publishing my second episode of my new podcast. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to talk about hypocrisy and beauty standards in Hollywood. I have a lot of opinions about that. So please check that out. I will announce it here on my channel as well. So yes, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode of Blossom Talk. And I'll see you in my next episode. Bye.